Hello everyone, my name is Nitish Sani and in this video I will be discussing the importance of collaborative partnerships with families and communities in early childhood education, particularly within the Australian early childhood service context. I will explore how these partnerships underpin children's inclusion, learning and development, and I will highlight the benefits for children, families and educators and communities alike. I will also address some of the challenges that can arise and suggest practical strategies for establishing, encouraging, and maintaining these vital connections. Throughout, I will be referring to the guiding frameworks which are used in the Australian context, which are the National Quality Framework and the Early Years Learning Framework version 2.0. EYLF version 2.0 is also called, as well as relevant literature and research that support collaborative practice. So first of all, move on to the question why collaborative partnership matters. So partnership between families, communities, and early childhood educators are very heart of quality education and care. We all know that education of children doesn't begin from the childhood center or from the schools. It begins from the home itself, and the parents are the first and foremost teachers. Same thing is reflected in the EYLF version 2.0, which reminds us that children's learning is most effective when educators work in partnership with families, respecting their role as the child's first and most influential teacher. But the question is, how communities can help in the children's learning in the context of child care services. It is because families bring them with the unique knowledge, culture, and perspectives that inform children's identity and belonging. Everyone is different and every family is different, so whatever the knowledge and experience or from the culture, that whatever they are bringing in, that is like completely different perspectives, and children's learn a lot from that. These same points are the backbone and reflected in the national quality standard, particularly if we move on to the area, it's quality area 6, which says collaborative partnerships with families and communities. It recognizes that strong respectful partnerships help ensure children are fully supported to thrive. When families are engaged and their voices are heard, children benefit a lot. They feel valued, they see their family identity reflected in the curriculum, and they develop confidence. If we can discuss some literature around this point, then we can refer to the Joyce Epstein's framework, 1995, that identifies six types of family and community involvement, including parenting, communication, volunteering, learning at home, decision making, and collaborating with the community, all of which directly enhance children's educational outcomes. Likewise, Australian scholars such as Dockett and Perry 2014 have shown how family involvement in transition to school supports children's adjustments, well-being and sense of security. So if we move forward, let's what are the benefits? What are the specific benefits that we are talking about? We know there are a lot of benefits of parents and communities engaging with the children in the child care context, but what are the specifics if we move from one point to another? So for the children, say, they experience a stronger sense of identity and belonging. So if we move on to the point, there is only 3 points: belonging, become, and being. So the strong sense of identity and belonging are reflected for the children. Their cultural and linguistic backgrounds are respected and celebrated. Learning becomes more meaningful because educators integrate home knowledge and experiences into the curriculum. There is smoother continuity of learning between home and service, which supports school readiness and confidence. So, for families, what are the benefits? They feel empowered and respected as equal partners. They are not thinking that they are just sending their children to child care services and they don't know what's happening there. They feel empowered. They feel like they are also the decision makers. They gain trust in educators and the services. They can share their expertise, for example, through cultural traditions, recipes, or storytelling. If they go on a vacation, they can share the pictures, they can share the stories of the children, and then the children can also feel empowered and the families also feel respected that okay, they are just like not just leaving their children out there, they are the equal partners, and they are more likely to engage with the child's learning journey also when invited as collaborators rather than positioned as outsiders. So what are the benefits for the educators? They gain deeper insight into children's interests, strengths, and needs. Like say, if we new children joins a child care center, then it may take a while for the educator to learn about all the interests, strengths, and needs of the children. But if they are properly collaborating with the families, then they might get a deeper insight and more a quick insight into the child's interests. They know what a child likes or dislikes, what are his strengths and weaknesses, and then can work in the favor of those things. They are able to design more inclusive, responsive, and cultural respective curriculum, because when they know about the interests, and then they can see like how we can develop the curriculum so that children can learn more. Their practice becomes more reflective and community oriented. For communities, service becomes a place of connection that strengthens social capital. So because if all of the parents and families are um, invited to the childcare centers regularly on a basis, say for some cultural meeting or some activities, then they all can also come together, meet different people from different backgrounds, learn about them a lot, and that also helps to like strengthen the bond in our societies also. Local organizations such as libraries, health providers, and cultural groups, they form meaningful partnerships that benefit families also. Communities are enriched by diversity and by the recognition of shared responsibility for raising children. When it is a thing of about the children, then all of the families knows that how much diversity is important, how they raise their children to be a good citizens and a moral people. So they should be telling their children from the very beginning how to like equally uh, help each other around. Overall, engagement builds trust, reciprocity, and collaborative responsibility. Outcomes that align directly with goals of the EYLF 2.0 principles of partnerships, respects for diversity, and high expectations and equality. Of course, while the benefits are clear, establishing partners is not always easy. There are many barriers, there are many hurdles which come into the way, such as there might be a language differences. Families may be from very differently cultural and linguistically diverse backgrounds. They might feel excluded if communication is not accessible. If there are many people in the group and they all speak different languages or have different mindsets and different opinions, then because of the language differences, they might feel excluded. They were like they are the outsiders or someone else. There might be time constraints because most of the families here in Australia which send their children to the childcare centers, they juggle between work commitments and may struggle to participate, which can also be a problem in maintaining those collaboration between the families. There can be some cultural misunderstandings. Educators may unintentionally impose dominant cultural values, overlooking others. It might not be their like intention, but it might be unintentionally. They might not be aware of that someone else will feel it bad, or someone is like that might be against their culture. Uh, Also, for say, if there are Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities there, so their past experiences or whatever they have gone through, maybe many of the communities doesn't know about it, so they might feel excluded or discriminated on the basis of just to willingness to engage. Because if say someone with a certain history is coming out there, and we should respect their history, and we don't know about, we don't know much about their history, or if like people from different cultures don't know about that much, then they might feel like discriminated, that they are being like ashamed, they are being called to a place and nobody knows about them. So it might also be a barrier in establishing that trust and communication that we are uh, trying to establish here. There can be some practical issues also, say such as lack of transport, limited access to digital platforms, or financial stress also. So these barriers, we should recognize these barriers, and take all these into consideration. That only then we can be allowed to implement inclusive and flexible strategies that break them down. So let's discuss some of the strategies for building and maintaining effective partnerships. So how do we move, like this is all kind of basic theory, right? Like what are the benefits, what are the basically barriers, and but let's move on to the practical, how we set up these things. Like we know that NQS, a national quality standard, give us all the foundation. They give us the element 6.1.2, which says families are supported in their parenting role and their values, and beliefs are respected. We also have element 6.2.3, which says the service builds relationship with community organizations to enhance children's inclusion and learning. But like all theory, let's move on to the practical strategies. So how should we do it? So basically we can try to set up some open communication. We can use multiple platforms. I think most of the childcare centers here in Australia already use digital apps where they continuously share the pictures, activities, day-to-day routine, and whatever the children are doing. So in by doing that, the parents are in continuously touch with whatever is happening. They are also like notice boards where children can, if say man, during the summer holidays children went on to a vacation, they can share their pictures, they can tell about their experiences, they can tell about some of the teachers. If they have a road safety week, they can tell whatever they learn. So all these pictures can be reflected on the notice board, so whenever the parents come there to with their children, so they can discuss about that. So that is also one of the practical point which we can do. Also we can try to make communication two-way. Like most of the educators usually talk with the parents whenever they came to leave their children in the childcare in the morning. But we can also set up a, like on the app itself, we can set up for the feedbacks, ideas, or maybe ask the parents for the stories so that it can be reflected. Also, um, when we are setting up the curriculum, say what will we be teaching, so we should involve families in planning by asking about children's home interests. Say some children like to play with dinosaurs more, some children like to play outdoor activities, some children uh, want to learn more about the bedtime stories. So there are all different interests. So if we can involve the families and try to learn how the children's home interests, then we can take that into consideration while making our curriculum. In this way, like parents will also feel like they are sharing more, and then more helpful, that they're also supporting in their children's growth. Also we can do some of the activities, say kitchen recipes or something, where all the children, like all the parents can come one day, and then they can make their home recipes and then can share with other children and parents, and invite them like to give us a brief overview, and then we can put it that on the notice boards, so that other children will also know how those recipes are, like how those dishes are made and what are the recipes, how the parents will also get in touch with those things. Also we can celebrate cultural festivals also. So there are many festivals in different cultures, different. So if we can like take specific their major functions, major festivals of each community, and try to incorporate that into the childcare services, so that is also like a culturally responsive practice. Also, what else we can partner with the local health services, libraries, and cultural groups, because say our childcare institute where I'm currently working, they partner with the local police department, and then the few of the officers came there and tell about the road safety rules, and what should we do, what shouldn't we do, and the children are very much excited to see them. And because they see them as like, the guardians, and they learn a lot from them. So we can do these things. So these things also help to build a, the link between the community and the children. We can also invite some guest speakers or elders to share knowledge with children. Or we can if possible, and like taken permission from the parents, of course, we can take children on excursions into the community, say even to the local library if it's close by. Also we can um, provide translation services when parents are there, if possible, wherever possible, so that the parents are also feel that they belong there, they are more connected with other families. Also we can do some like play groups or parenting workshops. So these are some of the points which can effectively help us to partnership, with all the communities, children and parents together, and how to set up these things. So the result was powerful. So by all these things, children will develop a richer understanding of, all the families, whatever their heritage was, and all this like the help to strengthen the commitment to reconciliation, and inclusion. From my own practice, I recall inviting families to share music from their culture during group times. That was in the last center which I worked. The children were excited to hear their home languages and instruments. So these small yet meaningful gestures created a strong bridge between home and the service. To conclude, collaborative partnerships with families and communities are a cornerstone of elective early childhood education. They underpin children's inclusion, learning, and development by valuing diversity, building trust, empowering families, and strengthening community ties. Both the National Quality Framework and the um, Early Year Learning Framework version 2.0 place partnerships at the center of our practice, reminding us that children thrive when educators, families, and communities work together. The benefits are clear and we already discussed. They are stronger identity, belonging, and well-being for children, empowerment and trust for families, more effective practice for educators, and stronger network for communities. Yet there are barriers, but we already discussed that those can be overcome easily. As educators, we are called to lead this work with empathy, respect, and reflection. In doing so, we honor children's right, strengthen families, and build communities that nurture learning and well-being. And that is the main motive of our in the society as an educators, as working in the childcare centers, that we can give something back to the society. Thank you all for listening. Now, I welcome any questions, reflections, or experiences from you on this vital topic. Thank you.